Hey guys, hopefully everyone is doing well. Today's target is to solve question number 13.15, and the chapter which we are related with is leverage and capital structure. Right now we are up to a point where we will understand different sort of leverages and we are up to construct a capital structure as well. The book which we are related with is Managerial Finance by Lawrence Gitman. 13.15 we are going to start. This is very comprehensive question and several previous topics would also be repeated, and complete income statement including operating expenses would also be present over here. So first of all, we will create a quick review and we'll create a difference between debt financing and equity financing. As we have earlier discussed, if all financial resources are used by owners and finance has been collected by themselves, it is called equity financing. If they are using outsourcing and they haven't used their own finance, it would be called debt financing. Under equity financing, we have seen it might be possible they have issued shares to common public with which they have got common stock, and it may be possible they have given shares to preferred shareholders or amount of retained earning. We have earlier discussed these topics. Common stock means when shares are issued to common public for purely profit loss sharing basis, on the basis of profit and loss sharing. That means if company will earn profit, a part of this profit would be distributed among shareholders, common shareholders, as a dividend. And in case if company is facing loss, these common shareholders would also be sharing losses in the same way. Preferred stock or preferred shareholders are in a better position. If company is earning profit, initially this profit would be distributed among preferred shareholders first. And even then, if profit is present in balance, that balanced profit would be distributed among common shareholders. So common shareholders would be at second stage. Preferably, dividend would be paid to preferred shareholders. And let's say if company had decided not to distribute this profit among shareholders, either common shares holders or preferred shareholders, this profit is not going to be distributed to any shareholder. Rather, company had decided to retain this profit for any future operational or financial needs. It is called retained earning. Obviously, this would be an amount which would be used to operate the business. That would also be considered a part of capital structure. Secondly, we have seen debt financing, under which financing are resourced from outside and you haven't invited them to participate in the business. They are not your shareholders. You have taken that amount as loan, or it might be possible it's debt or in shape of debentures or in shape of bonds. We will specially discuss these things in any other lecture. Right now, just consider these are just the loans in different shapes. Debentures and bonds are just a piece of paper for which, when these debentures are issued to public, for which they will receive the amount. Company or organization will receive amount from public as a loan after issuing debentures or bonds. So these are two sort of financing which we will discuss in our question as well. But before that, please understand that if you have taken loan from public, you will have to pay interest. And as we have earlier discussed, if financial resources are from the inner sources, that would be on profit and loss sharing basis. All right, let's come to the question. We have a toy company, beach ball, selling 4 lakh balls per year. These are number of units. Each ball produced has variable cost, this and that, fixed operating cost, interest, preferred. Like you can see that we have everything to calculate our contribution margin, net margin, EBIT, earning after interest before tax, earning after tax after interest, and then we have preferred dividend as well. So net profit would also be calculated. Look over here, we need to calculate operating break-even point. This has been solved in previous questions. Here we will make our income statement, and kindly keep it in mind this income statement includes operating expenses. So we will start with sales, then you will subtract your variable cost. What you will get would be your gross margin or contribution margin. Then you will subtract your fixed cost. You will get your net margin, or it is also called earning before interest and tax. After which you will subtract your interest, and then you will subtract your tax, after which you will subtract preferred dividend. Then finally you will get your net profit or net earnings. Okay, let's talk about if you will deduct your interest from net margin, you will get your earning after interest but before tax. When you will subtract your tax from previous earning, you will get earning after interest after tax as well. Then we have our preferred dividend. When we will subtract preferred dividend from previous earning, we will get our net profit. So this is comprehensive income statement where everything is present. So it's a very good numerical or problem with which your understanding would be strong and comprehensive. Here we will write our units. Per unit would be mentioned over here, and finally we will be writing our amount over here. Amount, as you know, would be calculated by multiplying units and per unit. Units and per unit would be multiplied to get your amount. Let's get back to the question. You can see over here these are balls, that means number of unit. So 4 lakh is your number of unit. Now let's see how much is your sale price. Look over here, each ball has a variable operating cost 0.84. First variable cost is given, and kindly keep it in mind it is per unit. So 0.84 is your variable cost and sales for $1. So it means per unit sale price is 1. Finally, we are able to calculate our contribution margin per unit as well, and several other calculations are possible in presence of per unit sale price and per unit variable price. Contribution margin can be calculated by subtracting variable cost from sales. Since these are per unit, so what we will do, per unit variable cost would be subtracted from per unit sale. Per unit sale is 1, and you will subtract per unit variable cost, which is 0.84. So in this way you have got your contribution margin. As earlier it was discussed that number of units for sales would always be similar to number of unit of variable cost. It's a common sense under manufacturing concern. It is impossible to sell more number of unit as compared to number of unit manufactured. This is first reason, and secondly you are making a single statement. So obviously to get corrected profit you have to use the same number of units. So 4 lakh number of units which we have used for sales, would also be used for number of units of variable cost, and number of unit for contribution margin would also be same. So in this way, half part of our question has been completed. Now we will be able to calculate our amounts. As earlier it was described that amount would be calculated by multiplying units into per unit. Relative unit of sales were 4 lakh. Over here 4 lakh, and you need to multiply per unit, which is 1. Please note it down. Number of unit 4 lakh and per unit cost, per unit sale price is 1. You have got total amount of sales, and then to calculate total amount of variable cost, you will use number of unit 4 lakh of variable cost, and then you will multiply it per unit variable cost, which is 0.84. So guys, in this way our total variable cost has also been solved. Now we can calculate our contribution, which is basically the difference between variable cost and sales. To calculate the difference, we will subtract variable cost from sales. Amount of sale is 4 lakh. Okay, and you will subtract your variable cost 336,000. So contribution margin has been calculated over here. We will go to the question and we'll see where is fixed cost. Look over here, fixed operating cost is 28,000. Come over here and write 28,000 as your fixed cost, after which we can calculate our EBIT or net margin. In a way it can be called net margin, but actually it is earning before interest and tax. Kindly keep it in mind what it is. Earning before interest and before tax, which is actually the difference between fixed cost and contribution margin. To calculate this difference, we will subtract fixed cost from contribution margin. Contribution margin 64,000 was calculated, and we will subtract fixed cost, which is 28,000. So we have got our earning before interest and tax. After which interest was required to be calculated. Sometime percentage is given, but here percentage is not given. Direct interest charges are provided, which is 6,000. So thus just write down 6,000 over here. So now we can calculate earning after interest. For that, simply you will subtract interest charges from previous income, which is net margin. Okay, we need to put a line after this because we are subtracting it. So net margin was 36,000, and you will subtract your interest, which is 6,000. In this way you will get your earning after interest but before tax. Kindly keep it in mind, after interest and before tax, because tax is still pending to be deducted. Now it's time to see how to calculate your tax. Look over here, and a 40% tax rate. Look, there is a method of solving question to read these things and post, or just make your statement, and whatever is coming, go back to the question, look the required amount and write down over here. That's a little bit better, but sometimes it's good to follow the question. Whatever amount is given in your question, just take that amount and put. Since we have a relatively small income statement, so what we have done, we have written all of inputs of our income statement, and now we are picking the required amounts written in the statement from the question. Earning after tax, after interest, before tax has been calculated. It's time to calculate tax. Tax is basically, you need to get your income before tax. This is your income before tax, 30,000, and you will multiply with tax rate, which is 40%. In this way you can calculate your tax. Income before tax was 30,000, and you will take its 40%. For that you will multiply it with 40 and divide it with 100. In this way, you have got your tax. Now we can calculate our income after interest and after tax. To calculate this income, we have amount of tax 12,000 and it would be subtracted from previous income which was 30,000, and you will subtract your amount of tax 12,000. So we have got an income which is after interest and after tax. Now we need to have uh, preferred shares if are present. So preferred dividend is also present 2000. So you will write directly. Sometimes percentage is given and here there is little ease. Percentage is not given. Direct amount of preferred dividend is given, which has been written directly over here. Cap double R was needed to write preferred dividend. Finally, we are at the stage where we can calculate our net profit, which is difference between preferred dividend and previous earning. 18,000 is our previous earning and we will subtract preferred dividend, which is 2,000, and in this way final profit or net profit we have calculated, that is 16,000. Now ask me why we have created this whole income statement. Because all type of leverages are present. We need to calculate financial leverage, we need to calculate operating leverage, we need to calculate total leverage, and operational break-even point is also needed. Alright guys, so first requirement we are going to calculate. This is our A requirement, which is actually operating break-even point. For that what we need is fixed cost, and that would be divided by CM per unit. Come over here, since look, per unit cost is mentioned over here. So if you will use per unit sale price, per unit variable cost, obviously the answer would be per unit contribution margin. If you will subtract your per unit variable cost from per unit sale, you will get your contribution margin. The formula which we have already discussed is CM per unit. For that, you will pick per unit sale and you will subtract per unit variable cost. So this is your formula for CM per unit, which has already been performed over here. Per unit sale price, look, per unit sale price, per unit variable cost 0.84, per unit variable cost. When you will subtract these, you will get your per unit contribution margin. So CM per unit is already available. You may mention over here CM per unit is equal to 0.16. And what else? Fixed cost is also present in your question. Look over here. Fixed cost is 28,000. So it means we can put our formula. Formula is already completed. Fixed cost how much? 28,000. And you will divide it with CM per unit, which is 0.16. Formula has been completed. Statement is completed. Now we can put it on our calculator. So we have got our first answer, operating break-even point 175,000. Get back to the question and look over here. 175,000 is your first answer, operating break-even point, which we have calculated. Let's mark it as it has been done. Let's use yellow for your answer. First answer has been calculated. Now we will see what our second answer is saying. That means we are proceeding to B point. For that, let's get back to the question. B is saying degree of operating leverage. Let's write degree of operating leverage we need to calculate. For that, CM would be divided by NN. CM over here is contribution margin, and NM over here is actually EBIT, or net profit before interest and tax. Okay, we can, okay, better to write full formula. So contribution margin divided by earning before interest and tax, EBIT. So this is your degree of operating leverage, where we have used CM over NM. This can also be used, but instead of an abbreviation, I have written contribution margin divided by EBIT. EBIT is earning before interest and tax, which has already been calculated over here. As you can see, net margin is also present, EBIT. These are one of the same thing, net margin and EBIT. Contribution margin, since everything has already been calculated, we have our contribution margin 64,000. So let's put 64,000, and we need to divide with earning before interest and tax, and look over here, net margin or earning before interest and tax, that is 36,000. So just put 36,000 over here. Statement is completed. Now you can put it on your calculator. So we have got our second answer, 1.77, and what it is, degree of operating leverage 1.7, and look at this answer 1.7. This is your degree of operating leverage, and answer is rounded off 1.7, or you can write it 1.78 after rounding it up. So second answer has been calculated. This is your degree of operating leverage. Let's mark it as it has been done. Now we will see what C point is saying to us. Use degree of financial leverage formula to calculate DFL. Alright, degree of financial leverage, and this way you will calculate EBIT would be divided by EBIT, then you will subtract amount of interest, and again you will subtract preferred dividend divided by 1 minus tax. So this is your formula with which you can calculate your degree of financial leverage. It is requested to please repeat this formula for 4 to 5 times, because without having formula you will not be able to calculate it perfectly. So better to memorize these formulas in your best ways. And second important thing is to put brackets, and I am taking extra time to put the brackets because there are two ways to calculate this formula. Either you can solve this bracket first and then division of this bracket, you will get one answer. And the third step, you will subtract EBIT, interest, and answer of this bracket. Next step, you will divide EBIT and answer of this whole bracket. So in this way, 4 to 5 steps you will have to take. Otherwise, when you have very simple scientific calculator, you can use brackets with which a single step would be needed to calculate your answer of this whole statement. And that's what I will let you know. First, we need EBIT, earning before interest and tax, that is over here, and 36,000 is your amount. Put 36,000, and then you need to divide with, again you need to put EBIT, and that is 36,000. Then you need to subtract your amount of interest. Interest is mentioned over here, and amount of interest is 6,000. So put 6,000 over here. Again, you need to subtract bracket start preferred dividend. This is your preferred dividend amount is 2,000. So put 2,000 over here divided by bracket start 1 and minus then tax rate. Tax rate was present as 40%. Here a little short step we are taking. 40% means 40 divided by 100 and that means 0.4. In this way you have completed your statement, and I'm careful about brackets. So here a starting bracket is needed, at end a closing bracket is needed. So please note it down how this formula has been written. Otherwise it would not be an easy task to put it on your calculator. Now please understand, 36,000 you will write at first stage, then sign of division, two brackets you will put 36,000 amount of EBIT, then 6,000 amount of interest, and then bracket start again 2,000 your preferred dividend, and then you will divide it by opening your bracket 1 minus 0.4 and close your bracket twice. Okay, let's see what it is saying. First bracket is not closed. 2000 divided by 1.04. Okay, but there is 1 2 3 opening brackets, 4 opening brackets, and let's put one more bracket. Now I am hopeful that it would create our answer. So we have got 1.35, that is your degree of financial leverage, 1.35. Let's check the answer. So we have our C point degree of financial leverage, that is 1.35. At this stage I just can request you to please note it down where you have put bracket and how many brackets you have put. Please note it down. If you feel any difficulty while calculating it on your calculator, just note it and you will get your answer. Brackets are very important, so it's your responsibility to note it down where to put opening bracket and where to put your closing bracket. We have got our answer 1.35. Let's mark it as it has been done. C point has been solved. Now see what D point is saying. Use the degree of total leverage. Alright. At D point we are needed to calculate degree of total leverage. So all type of leverages we have in this question. For this you need your contribution margin, and then you will divide your contribution margin. Again you will subtract your fixed cost, and then you will subtract your interest, and then bracket start you will subtract your preferred dividend, but after dividing 1 minus tax rate. Alright guys, this is your formula for total leverage. You take your time, note it down and repeat it for as many times as you can. Contribution margin, again divided by contribution margin, then you will subtract your fixed cost, subtract interest and subtract your preferred dividend after dividing it 1 minus tax. So we need to put brackets as well. This is your starting bracket, and here two brackets are needed to close it down. So first, stop this lecture right now. Pause it and write down this formula and repeat it for 4 to 5 times. This would be a little better way to understand degree of total leverage. Formula I have written. Posting amount is not much difficult, but if you have this formula, even a 7th, 8th standard student can solve this question if a formula is given to him or her. So it is requested to please note it down, repeat it 4 to 5 times. The first thing which we need is our contribution margin. Let's get back to the solution where we have make this income statement. You can see that our contribution margin is 64,000. Let's start putting it 64,000. Then we need to divide again with 64,000. Subtract fixed cost. Let's get back, and you can see your fixed cost is 28,000. So 28,000 would be posted over here. Then you will subtract, please follow this formula what we have done. Contribution margin 64, contribution margin 64, contribution margin again 64, and then we have subtracted our fixed cost. And next is to put your interest. Amount of interest is present over here, which is 6,000. You will have to take care. A wrong posting could create a mess. And then you will subtract what you have done. Contribution margin 64, fixed cost 28, interest 6,000, and then you will start your bracket. Alright, and then you will put your preferred dividend. Your preferred dividend is 2,000. So here you will put 2,000, but after dividing it. 1 minus tax rate was 40%. As you have mentioned earlier, 40% means 40 divided by 100. It would become as 0.4, and you will put 3 brackets. So this way you have completed your posting, but since it's just the statement, you will have to put it on your calculator as well. For that, start with 64,000 and then divide by opening your bracket. 64,000 minus 28,000 minus 6,000, again minus, and you will start your bracket. 2,000 divided by bracket start 1 minus 0.4, 3 brackets. So let's check it out. 1 bracket opening, 2, 3 opening. Okay, so brackets are in good conditions. We have got our answer 2.4. Let's go and check it out. The answer of total leverage, we have 2.4. So guys, all of our answers are calculated. Let's review them. First was operating break-even point 175,000. 175,000 as our break-even point, reviewed. B answer was degree of operating leverage 1.78. Look over here, degree of operating leverage, and the answer is 1.78, and it has been mentioned over here. C point is degree of financial leverage. C financial leverage 1.35 and 1.35. Degree of total leverage, that is 2.4. Over here we have calculated degree of operating leverage 2.4, and in answer is also 2.4. In this way all answers are reviewed, and you can overall review of this question. First we have created income statement, then one by one A, B, C, D parts were solved with the help of their formulas. So I am sure with this question you will not feel any difficulty in future to calculate any sort of leverage. We have calculated degree of operating leverage, that's present over here. Then we have calculated degree of financial leverage, and then we have calculated degree of total leverage. Look, you may ask what is use of these leverages, why we are calculating it. So kindly understand that a manager would not be having enough time to make different statements. So instead of those statements, what he will do, he will use these small formulas to see where our financial position is. Like it's your personal experience when you will go to your CFO, chief financial officer, you will not be having any document over here. You will see that your chief is not busy at all. He will remain in his cabin without doing any clerical work, without doing any statement. The fact is, these managers are actually using their brains just to take the decision. Keep it in mind, a good decision maker is a good manager. If you can't make your decision, you will not be able to manage your business as well. So here what we are learning, by taking these small formulas, small statements, we will come to know where our position is. When you know the actual position, obviously it would be very easy for you to take the position, to take your decisions. And in this way, just these tiny amounts of operating leverage or financial leverage, this is showing a positive sense because it is more than one. When your leverage is more than one, it means you are in your favorable position. Right now, this organization in any way is in a good position. 1.78, 1.35 showing that over here, just one thing we can understand, your contribution margin is far more than your net margin. So if it is, let's say your net margin is decreasing and net margin is decreasing while contribution margin is increasing, this ratio would be increased. So please, just for this question, I'm saying that your ratio is in positive sense. You can accept it. It's not an unfavorable situation because your net margin is in positive sense. But as this leverage would be increased, what I have said, if this leverage would be increased, that would be unfavorable situation in a sense. In case your contribution margin has been increased, let's say your contribution margin has increased from 64 to 75, this ratio would be increased. Though for the time being you will see that your contribution margin is increasing, it should be favorable. But if your net margin is not being changed, that would be an unfavorable situation. So please note it down. With these tiny statements, you can make your decision in a better way instead of taking risks. Our question has been completed. We have reviewed our answers as well, and we have reviewed our solution as well. Started with the understanding, or we have seen the concepts as well. A, B, C, D 13.15 has been completed. Surely we will be meeting soon again for the solution of any other question in future, inshallah. But for the time being, it is requested to please repeat this question for 4 to 5 times. Solution is in front of you, question has been reviewed. Even then, I'm saying, even in presence of solution, I'm saying if you have any difficulty in understanding the tiniest solution part, for the tiniest solution part, if you are feeling any difficulty, just inform. Just share your difficulty through messages, text, or you can directly meet and put your queries. I will surely be answering your question instantly. 13.15 is ended, so our lecture is ended. Thank you very much for your time. It's time to say goodbye. Allah Hafiz.